Thank you, thank you, thank you. Very nice introduction. Okay, folks, I'm going to do my very best to sing this. No, not really. We are making history tonight. You guys are looking fantastically smart. This is amazing. You're looking at the next president of the United States. Wait, we have iHeartRadio in the back room. This is being recorded. In a few minutes, it's going to be broadcast around the nation. Let me tell you what's going on. We are running for the White House in 2024, and we have used all of the busboys and poets, their entertainment rooms, to give stump speeches. And this is a fantastic place. I wish it existed all over the United States, because this is the tops, folks. This is a great place to have some fun, and everyone loves to enjoy themselves. But let's get right into this. President of the United States. Who am I? I'm Robert Quigley. I've lived in Washington, D.C. for the last 22 years. I've been a business owner for most of my life. I trained as a lawyer. I've worked in Europe. I've worked in Asia. I have been all around this wonderful country of ours. And we have lots of problems that need to be solved. So let's talk real quickly about some of the problems that we're going to solve when we get to the White House. We need to make it easier for everybody to buy their first house. We need to provide better health care to all of our citizens. We need to deal with big issues like global warming. We need to reform Wall Street. We need to make sure everybody has a good education and a way to take care of themselves in life. On top of all of that, we have to reform policing all across the United States. It is out of control. You get pulled over for a traffic ticket, dreadful consequences could happen. This is a lack of leadership in the current administration, and we have all suffered the consequences for many, many years now. So folks, we have a lot of good things coming, and what we normally do at this point is I tell you to go to our website. It's robertquigleyforpresident.com. We are always looking for creative writers. We are looking for talent to join our team. We need folks from every walk of life to step up to the plate, give us your vote, give us your support, and together we're going to make America great for everybody. Now at this point, I need to get a couple of questions from the audience. Remember, we're on national radio. Show the world how smart you are. Ask me anything, give me a complaint, tell me what you like about the government, you don't like about the government, what you want to see change. Who wants to be first? Okay, go ahead. Police reform, that's a very good question. Police reform is actually a half a dozen different issues all rolled up into one. First and foremost, many police officers around the country are policing with a Rambo type of mindset. This is nuts. In the last 1 year across America, there have been 500 people that died from being pulled over for a traffic violation. That is a perfect example of over-policing. When I get to the White House, we're going to reform the courts, because what's happening is the courts are trying to be very, very responsive to the community. They are over-penalizing people for very insignificant types of crimes. Crimes that would receive a warning in another country can wind up in serious jail time in the United States. We have to reform the appointment of judges, we have to reform the judiciary, and we have to give police officers strict rules. There are boundaries that they cannot go over, and over-policing is by far one of those boundaries. So just like the federal government uses the expenditure of money to help schools around the country, and in doing that we're able to set policy, we are going to do the same thing with police forces. We're not tolerating Rambo cops on American streets. People don't get pulled over for a ticket and then wind up dead or in jail for life. That's not going to continue. Very good question. Next, yes.
Okay. Are you open to ridding standardized testing to reverse the deficits that have been created within the pandemic and No Child Left Behind, considering it is contributing to the school-to-prison pipeline?
Oh, absolutely. Let me tell you, just let me give you a little bit about my background. I am very, very big in education at every level. Okay, I came up through a combination of public schools and private schools. My dad was a Navy pilot, so I lived all over the place. Half of my childhood I lived with a great-grandmother because my dad was traveling all around the world all the time. So I went to public schools, and like I say, back in those days, it was all about learning the day that you went to school. I mean, that's
That
the...
means I agree. I'm sorry.
Okay, yeah, so another question. Okay, let me give you the first answer, but okay. So that education in today's world, in our advanced digital economy, nobody anywhere can do good in life without an education, without some technical skills. They don't have to go to college. They can go do a trade school program. They can do a computer programming program. One of the other things we're going to do is we're going to create 30 million new small business owners across America. We're taking the SBA loan program and we're making it much, much easier to qualify. So somebody who, let's just say, is a carpenter, just as a random example. Well, I saw right there, written on your forehead. But you know, you can live a very successful life with a carpentry business, as you know, provided you've got the tools, provided you've got a truck, provided you've got an ability to advertise, provided you have the health to get up in the morning and go look at people. So we have to provide you with the funds to run your business. We don't want you coming to the government and saying, well, I can't do anything, please help me out. We would rather say, look, why don't you go to the SBA, we'll give you a loan, a couple $100,000. That's enough to start a small business, and then off you go and you take care of yourself your whole life. That's the direction we're going in. But to go back to sort of the background on the education, you know, I came up through the system. I wound up spending a couple of years out at George Mason in Northern Virginia. I traveled around the world. I wound up in law school in the United Kingdom, law school in the United States. I was a lawyer after law school for a few years. And then I became a business owner for 30 years, my wife and I, because that's really my mom's background, family background. So that's what we did. And what I realized during that time period was you don't need a very high education to do well in life. I know a lot of people who actually didn't finish high school, and they're making $1 million a year. And they're out there busting their butts every day as electricians, as carpenters, as plumbers. And then in the digital world, we've got influencers, we've got video creators. So we have to change our attitude toward American education. Nobody anywhere in the country can be left behind. And of course, just to add to that, I want to take this opportunity because we've done a dozen of these speeches and it's the first time that someone's asked a detailed question. But I want this on the public record. What is going on in Florida with Ron DeSantis and eliminating the African American Advanced Placement course and trying to micromanage what the kids are learning is absolute absurdity. Because when it comes to education, everything should be learned. Whatever the human brain wants to pursue, that human brain should be able to pursue it. Because that will lead that person to an area or a place that they're really interested in that may very well turn into a lifetime career. They may very well turn around and help the next person coming up. So there's no education that should be off the table. And when it comes to American history, every part of American history needs to be on the table. So I just make that clear. Very good question. Come on, guys, a couple more. Throw something else my way. What's going on in your private lives?
I have another one.
All right, go ahead. Give me a follow-up.
So considering that reparations is on the table, but they're not really clear on how to do that, is there any idea of how to revamp the credit system considering it is still new and yet it's affecting people that were affected by generations of slavery and how that put people behind? Like, do you have an idea of how to, because like, for example, me, right? I have money, but I don't have good credit because of financial literacy not being taught and et cetera, et cetera. But I want to get a home.
Yeah.
But because I went to college, now my debt is increased.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So now that affects my credit. And like what you said with the first home buyers, for a lot of people, credit is affecting them, but they have money. Is there any way to revamp that? Because that also kind of goes into play with white supremacy and what happened generations ago. Absolutely.
You brought three really good points in there that my administration is going to address head on. So let's deal with the easiest one first. There is an awful lot of talk about reparations, and this is really emanating from California. The reality of that conversation is it touches a lot of people's hearts and it hits home for a lot of people. But there are much, much better ways to solve the same problem. And I'm going to tell you what those better ways are right now, because it can apply deeply and all across the society. FHA. So right now, if you want a first-time home buyer loan from the FHA, you need a minimum credit score of 585. But the current system allows the banks to do what's called an overlay. So the bank will write you a mortgage, and then all of those mortgages, like 99.99% of the mortgages, get sold to the federal government in one form or the other. So it's really the federal government who is lending you the money. But the current system is allowing the commercial banks and mortgage banks around America to do what's called an overlay. So they will add higher standards on top of the 585 credit score. Let's call it a 620. And because what they don't want to do is they don't ever want to have to give the money back from writing the loan. Well, when Quigley gets to the White House, we are going to eliminate that ability to put an overlay on the FHA requirements. And in fact, what we're going to say is if the person can prove that they've been working for, let's call it a year, maybe 2 years, but they can make a monthly payment based upon that 1 or 2 year work history, then they qualify for the first-time home buyer loan. It is not about credit scores. Credit scores, we could talk about this for the rest of the week, but for every example of a good result, there are 10 examples of a bad result. So there are a lot of people in your shoes that work hard every day, but because their money's too tight, their credit score may not be so good, but nevertheless, they're making enough money to pay a mortgage. You're paying rent, right?
Well, no, the issue is because there's so many different components. So for example, my payment history may be 100%, but my credit age may be young. You get what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
So it's like those extra components.
Absolutely.
Like, so what if I didn't know I needed to get credit and I've just been paying bills and there's no trail? I don't have credit because I didn't want to borrow money from anybody.
But you have still been working and paying your rent and paying your bills. You're looking at a guy, I don't believe in credit. I believe in saving your money and paying what you can, but credit is a very useful tool. It should never be a hindrance.
Right.
It should help people get ahead in life. So the FHA we're going to tweak, and the other part of it is the student loans.
Right.
We're going to return student loans to where they were in the 1960s when they first came out. I don't know if you realize it or not, but when student loans first came out, if you wound up in bankruptcy court because things weren't going well in your financial life, you could bankrupt those student loans, and they were totally canceled. That was it. It was the student's decision to figure out if it was good for them or not. We are going back to that situation when Quigley is in the White House. So those tools, just a couple of those tools right there, will address your issues and tens of millions of other people across America. Very good follow-up questions. Ladies, you've had a question over here. Yeah. Don't be shy. It's okay.
I don't mean to attack you with a string of buzzwords, but there are some serious just issues is it on the table? Are y'all gonna address it? We feel like it should have happened by now, and I'm the run around is I just want to know if y'all are even gonna talk about it. Universal health care, universal basic income, and canceling student debt. I lived my first part of my life, my adult life in Japan, and it's hard to explain to an American what it's like to live as a young person when you don't have to worry about getting sick or injured, and you don't have a 5 to 6 figure debt behind you sucking up all your free money from a system that doesn't want to pay you to begin with.
Yeah.
So I didn't mean to just blast all the nasty words at you, but that list of things is kind of all I want to know.
That's okay. So the last one, the student loans, we are going to turn those into a bankruptable status if you wind up in bankruptcy court. We're going to deal with it there. Healthcare is a big one. What the Quigley administration is going to do is we're going to divide the healthcare system into something that we're calling a primary healthcare service and a secondary healthcare service. And when we first put this on the table, my team, we were very surprised that all of the health insurance companies around the country jumped on board. They became our biggest sponsors from the very beginning. Now let me go a little bit deeper. Here's what we're going to do. Primary health care, in our way of thinking, is you wake up in the morning, you got a bump on your nose, you got a pain in your side, whatever it is. You're like, something's wrong with me. So you are probably afraid to go to the doctor or the hospital because it's going to cost you an arm and a leg. So you're like, maybe it'll go away in a couple of days. Maybe it'll get better. So you don't go to the hospital. And this little thing, 6 months later, turns into stage 4 cancer. And if you would have gone to the hospital in the very beginning and called it, they would have been able to treat it, and you would have had yourself another 40 years of life. So what we are doing is we're saying, look, primary health care is that type of health care where you go in and get that checkup. They figure out what is wrong with you, those doctors. They give you some tests. They figure out what's going on with your body if you don't get a bill. The government is going to cover that. The federal government's going to cover that. Therefore, there's no fear for you to get examined. Now, if it turns out you got something dreadful, then it moves up a notch. And then we will let the insurance companies and the rest of the healthcare system that's currently in place take care of the more complicated cases. But the key point is if we get people into the doctor, we are able to catch illness early, and it's free for the patient. You're going to live longer, guarantee you, because we will be catching cancer earlier. All of the diseases we will catch earlier. So that's really the only plausible way we're going to be able to tackle that issue right now in America's political environment. But like I said, the people who are the stakeholders at that table, they're already on board. They will go along with it. So very good. Now there was a third point in there. What was it?
Basic universal.
Oh yeah, basic universal income.
725 is just ridiculous.
Yeah, there are many towns out in California that are actually trying this as we talk. So here's a couple of ways that we are looking at that. Those programs are being tested across the country. That will happen in the future. There's no question about it. A couple of tweaks that we want to add to that is we are seeing problems with seniors and electric bills, seniors and water bills. Texas is the top example because they have this total free market on electricity down there. And you could actually have a $20,000 per year electric bill in Texas. I mean, who would have thought? I mean, it'd give you a heart attack if you haven't already had one. This is a little bit crazy because when you get to a certain point in life, your income's going to come down, your ability to work is going to come down, and there are a lot of seniors that are losing their houses or they just cannot keep up with all of those repetitive monthly bills. So the government's going to have to rearrange how we deal with folks in terms of their electric bill and their water bill and their internet bill, the basics of life. So so essentially what we're saying is,
We're thinking more basic than that. We're the only country in the world that have children with a lunch debt. They couldn't pay money to the school that they're required to be at all day, and their parents are getting paid enough to cover them. So the school is lending them money so that they can eat. Like, I understand what you were saying, but like even all those are a step up. Like that universal health, kids can't eat.
is that happening in DC?
It's not happening in DC, sir. So far you're not in charge, so I don't know who I can blame or whatever. But it's happening around.
Oh, okay. No, see, sometimes you learn stuff on the campaign trail because so I'm going to put that note in the back of my head because the way the system should operate is if the kid doesn't have any money, he gets a free lunch.
That's not how that works. You can go on Twitter and see all those stories.
Oh, I believe you.
Chains to sell to pay off all his friends' lunch debt. And it's like, oh, that's not sweet, 80. You're 8 and you're working to pay off your friends' debt. How come we're not feeding the kids? That's what I mean.
Oh, absolutely. You're 100% right. I'm with you 100%.
Sometimes she made a good point about it not happening in DC. DC gets a lot of passes in certain ways because it's not a state, so the funding is federal. So it's like if we can see the trends that work in DC, that because it's federally funded, that should be happening all across the board.
Oh, absolutely.
I grew up in PG, and I had to see a lot of things that are available to DC that's not available in PG, and I'm right at the border.
Oh, that's interesting.
Like, yeah, you know what I'm saying? We literally walk across the street, and
Right.
we're in DC, so it's like, and I'm not saying people in DC don't have their own things they're dealing with. I'm just saying we should be combining the resources and spreading it across instead of making people have to look at each other across borders saying like, oh, you got this, but I ain't got this.
Oh no, you're absolutely right about that. In fact, if you take that one concept and sort of spread it out across the country, there is no doubt about it. We have some states across America that are extremely miserly. And they are not. I mean, I'm gonna give you some examples. I was just reading a report recently. Alabama, Montgomery, Alabama. Is anybody here from Alabama? Close enough. Well, okay. I apologize in advance. Sorry, but in Montgomery, Alabama, they charge the homeowner something on the order of $60 a month to pick up their trash. Yeah, you got to be kidding me. This is so stupid. You don't charge the homeowner or the renter to pick up their trash because if they can't pay the bill, what does the government in Montgomery, Alabama do? They arrest them and put them in jail.
For having trash out.
for not being able to pay a $60 per month trash pickup bill.
So question, if they can't pay it, but they still get rid of the trash, do they still get arrested?
Oh, if they, well, that's a good question. I think the
There's
answer.
so many nuances.
That's
in
exactly
the
right.
law.
But based on that report that I read, you had to pay that bill whether you stuck that trash in your neighbor's trash can in the middle of the night when no one was looking, or you drove it off to the local dump. Because you were on the route, you had to pay that even though your trash can was empty.
Wow.
But what really happened in this particular case, this was like an 82-year-old woman, is she, of course, wasn't putting it in her neighbor's trash can. It was piling up in her alley behind her house. So how sanitary is that? Where does that make sense? So number one, the lady's living off Social Security, so she can't really afford the $60. You've got trash piling up behind her house in the alley, and then she gets arrested and then she's off in court because she can't pay a bill. Well, in America, we're not supposed to have debtor prisons. But what you are saying is happening in many other forms and examples and arenas across America. And at the heart of it is the federal government is not using their full power. When you get to the White House, that's where the buck stops. That person who sits in the Oval Office has the ability to call up any governor in the country and say, we need you to take care of these people. We would prefer that you not go down that road and put 82-year-old people in jail because of a trash bill. But we've had very weak administrations. They're not looking after the people. They're looking after their political supporters. Very good question, though. Okay, guys, any other thoughts or comments? Go ahead.
I think we had time.
Are we good? Okay. Well, guys, go to robertquigleyforpresident.com. I need your vote, and we need your support. We're going to make America better for everybody, but we cannot do it alone. So help where you can. Find me on the website, and when we meet again, we will continue this conversation. Thank you.
Indeed, indeed. Show some love for Robert Quigley, y'all. Show some love for Robert Quigley.